So there we are. First, I wanted to show you Doc Councilman. He's my role model. He's the one that brought a pace clock to swimming. So you can imagine before the pace clock, he's also the one that brought underwater video to swimming and put lights on people's hands and all these great things. Wherever I go, wherever you see me do today that you think is kind of cool, because I think some of the stuff is, we're really blessed, Doc was there first. So I just wanted to say that. Second, I want to be able to make sure that, you know, you realize that although he gave accountability to swimming, before that, I literally have a friend who won the '68 Olympics, who actually won the 400 individual medley. He was 17 years old. And he told me his workouts were just 3,000 every day. He did 3,000. And then he showed up and he had enough talent to win the Olympics. We can't do that anymore. And we're going to really show you the next level of that thought process here. I've been trained by the Covey Leadership Center. And so that's going to be part of what we talk about here. We're just going to fly through this. If you ever want to go through a longer one, if you've seen me speak before, you've probably seen me do the 10 habits of highly effective swim coaches and et cetera. But I just want to go really fast. The first habit, being proactive. How do you react to things? If you react or you're proactive, you're setting this up. When you're sending your kids for Dryland, are you setting them up for things that are actually going to help them? Second, begin with the end in mind. What's it look like when they're doing their exercises that really work for them? Put first things first, help them to do that. Think win-win, have it first to be understood, then to understand, then to be understood. Synergize is a third better way. And we may disagree about some of the things you see in this presentation, but I think there's maybe a third way that's maybe even better than the 100 and something of us may come up with. Sharpen the saw, make sure you're taking care of yourself. And this is especially a great time for that. Coaches, this is a great thing for you to be doing, to be going into Zoom, to interact, to learn new things, to help your swimmers, maybe push this onto the swimmers and help them to be able to do things on their own. That's going to be one of the themes of everything we talk about here today and in the times to come, that athletes anyway need to be doing things in between practices to make them better. And a lot of them don't do that. We even think swimmers should be filming themselves. We don't think coaches should be filming as much as they do. Not that coaches film enough as far as I'm concerned, but when you have 30 people, you have 2 minutes each per hour. And that's a really hard thing. And then choosing your state to decide what state that you're in. You can actually choose to be happy even in bad situations. Boy, this is a good test of that this time of day and age. So some general and cross training we're not going to go over. Okay, so don't expect to see a lot of things you're seeing in a lot of other places. Now, this isn't the first day I thought to do this. We've been doing this for many, many years. We designed weight rooms and worked with a lot of athletes. I've been trained by Dr. Mike Yesis, who edited the Soviet Sport Journal, and you're going to see in a minute, we're going to show you a thing on that. We are not going to show you how to cross-train. So this is Eliud Kipchoge. He went under 2 minutes in the marathon this year. Here's the funny way to put it. 100 freestyle, 2:02. So great runner, but I just heard Dr. Gary Hall say, and I think it's a great quote, the faster runners we have, the slower they swim. So there's an inverse correlation, not necessarily. You know, you might get somebody who's really great. You get great triathletes, but let's face it, even the great triathletes, at the time they're great triathletes, are not winning at the world-class level. So it's the same thing, 100 free, 239, you're a stud, you're built, but that doesn't necessarily make you better. All right, so this is kind of the groundwork. You only optimally improve what you measure. Now that's another thing that's going to be unique to this presentation, is if we're going to stretch something, if we're going to make something stronger, if we're going to make somebody be able to lift more in a given direction or whatever, we want to make sure as much as possible to measure that. We want to teach our athletes to do exactly the same thing, to measure everything they're doing when it's possible. I have people in my college team that come in and have never been measured. They're 100 butterflyers. They've never been measured in the 50 dolphin kick, in the 100 dolphin kick, or 15-meter dolphin kick accurately. We have a way to do that now. In fact, that's what I wanted to present before this whole thing happened a couple of months ago. And we've gone from water exercises. We have this thing called a smart tower, which I don't know if you can see. Smart tower is over there. We have this thing called a smart tower. That goes in the water and with different resistances, like a power rack, except that it's strapped to you. And when you get to 15 meters, it gives you an accurate time to a hundredth of a second. You look back and see it. We have it at Mission Viejo, and Mark can tell you they're going crazy about it. In fact, it stopped. There was a thing that we had to put a plate on. It didn't work one day, and he called me and said, "You got to get here and make sure that it works, because just resistance alone wasn't enough motivation." That's brand new. But anyway, we stopped doing that at this moment, and we are on land. So bottom line too is the good is the enemy of the best. So running is good. Pull-ups, they're good. But we worked with John Mickenen one time. He was on my high school team, and John came into a weight program with us. We were on it was when I coached Bray Aquatics. No, I'm sorry, I wasn't. Yeah, I was at Swim Champ Placentia. We were in a weight room, and one of our girls had just done 36 straight pull-ups, and she was on his high school team along with us. And he comes in, and he's working out with Nova and with us in the morning. And he came in. We said, "Hey, John, how many pull-ups can you do?" And he comes up, jumps up, and well, let's see. He does 1.5 pull-ups. 2 weeks later, he set the American record in the 800 free, and he went 20-point in the relay for us on a roll in the relay for our high school. So here's the bottom line. You may disagree with this. This is what Dr. Yes has taught me. Back in the day, he edited the Soviet Sport Journal. If you're over 3 degrees off in the motion that you want to improve, you're not improving it very much. So pull-ups with dropped elbows. I mean, this is a great way to teach someone to have dropped elbows. It may seem like it's the only thing you could do, but we're going to show you a bunch of things right away here that you can do that's better. The goal, remember, is to swim faster. So let's go to what it looks like to swim faster. Now, this is going to take me a minute to recap. This is this is Dressel, and you can see this great underwater, but let's look at it slower. And let's go frame by frame here. I'm thinking. Sometimes it doesn't do this very well. And right now it's not, of course.
Should I put my other shoe back on?
No.
Okay.
All right, notice once again, I'm sorry everybody, now let's try this again. Let's notice him kicking down. Look how he's just using his quadratus lumborum, his glutes. The muscles that he's using here are extremely rare in terms of their development for most swimmers. Almost all swimmers at this point will begin bending their knees because they're not strong enough to kick just from here. Now, it's no coincidence, and Greg, if you're on, I wish I could just find everybody, but there's hundreds of you. Greg Troy, it's not a coincidence, I don't think, that Greg Troy coached this swimmer and also coaches this swimmer. Now, yes, they're both very talented, but there's a lot of talented swimmers that don't do this. I know we get a lot of them in college where they physically can't do this. Rhonda, were they able to see the video we did of Eliza doing exercises?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
now
I could
hopefully,
see it.
Go ahead.
I could see it. Others said they could not see it.
Okay, we can try it one more time. You got your ankle off? Or your ankle? Okay, so we're gonna just turn it around right now and show. Now, Rhonda, is this gonna show on a little screen now that I'm still sharing for everybody?
Yes, it's going to show on a little screen. You'll want to probably end your screen sharing.
Okay, so everybody got this memorized? All right, stop share. You good?
Down a little more.
Down?
Good.
That good? Okay, so she's pointing on a protractor. And this is how we can tell she needs to keep her knee on the back of her knee on the ground. Good, she has to really push to do that. Now she's at about 165. She's a little bit off, you can see. Yeah, about 165, and that's what we measure. So we measure her plantar flexion here, and then we take her on to other things that can make her better. Now, the other thing we can measure, come on over here, hyperextensions. For those of you who didn't see it, she's going to jump on the hyperextension. Now, guys, if you're looking at this and thinking, well, what? I don't have one of these. It has little handles and everything. You just do it on the side of a bench. It's a lot less comfortable, but it still works. Okay, ready? Go. Just do a few. Go higher. Push toes. Feet together. Okay, down. Ready. Up. Hold. Down. Now, Eliza's done a few of these, but she's shaking a little bit. Ready? Go. Because we haven't been in a pool or anything. Ready? 5 in a row. Ready? Go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you can see the muscles that are working. Those are the muscles we need to work on. And again, that's pretty rare. Now, go ahead and get in the ankle, both feet. I'm going to turn this around toward me while we get her ready. So back to specific adaptations. You can't do that, what she just did, unless you can do that, right? So you have to start doing it on land. And what we've been suggesting to coaches for generations now when I do these talks is athletes at home need to do things in between practices, unless they just want to be good, right? If they do everything that the coach says during practice, they're not doing these specific exercises at home because they don't have time when you're ready. So, and I'm going to show you something right now that takes a lot more time than anybody wants to admit. There is no way that you're getting the kind of ankle flexibility that you saw in Dressel and that you saw, I see there's kids in the room, that there's Dressel and that you saw Lochte have. We stand at 90 degrees. When we stand with our feet at 90 degrees. I don't know if I'm doing this very well. At 90 degrees all the time. We sleep with our feet at 90 degrees. And suddenly we're supposed to get 180, 190, 200 degree rotation of our ankle joint. It's just not going to happen. If you've ever had a cast on your arm or your leg, you know how hard it was to get back to full range of motion. And you only had it on for probably 6 weeks. Oh, you gotta get it. So it takes time is the bottom line. Now, the guy that invented the Zoomers, Marty Hull, he also invented a thing called the rack, where you put your feet in this rack, a strap across the ground, kind of like our, put it over your toes, get in there and stretch. All right, put it over your toes, all the way over your toes. Okay, now you're gonna see something we invented, because we've been knowing this for a long time. Well, anyway, what he told me was that he worked with the Stanford team for, a decade. And he said that he measured everybody's ankle flexibility and nobody had less than 180 degrees, but one breaststroker ever. And that was a breaststroker. So let me see if I can get this aimed at her. That's very good. Okay, now, can you see yourself? Can you see what I'm supposed to see? Yeah. Okay, so she's in a flexed position there. Her toes are being pulled down. Why don't you go ahead and go right over it and let it pull you down even more. Remember we talked about going farther forward? Go farther forward. Oh, wait, stay right there. Now go up and down. Don't come out of it. Down, up, down. Can you see it?
Yep.
Rhonda, you see it? Okay, good.
Yep.
Right, up, down. Now she's working right here. She's working her tibialis anterior. And I was going to actually, because of the technology, we're still learning how to use it, but I wanted to show you those muscles in action. And we've got an app that'll actually show you that. All right, so you get the idea. Now, go in there and just hold. Go across if you want to. Yep, just hold it. Just yeah, that's fine. Just hold. Now, here's the bad news. The good news is that really works. And we just use a regular old protractor like this. Again, Walmart. Just go to put it on the side of the wall. Just draw an arc. If you can't get out to Walmart right now, just draw an arc on the side of the wall in a waterproof, something that can come off easy, kids, not permanent, and make little marks on it and continue to improve. And what we recommend is that people test this every week. So every Monday or every Tuesday, whatever, you come in and everybody gets tested, and then you do a spreadsheet. So let me share that. Now, okay, so we only showed you a couple exercises. Go ahead and show them a kicker real fast. But I want you to show them with, tell you what, do it on this one. Do it on this one.
Yeah.
That way I don't have to hold you.
Yeah.
All right. So what you're going to see now, this is a. I want to make sure that doesn't help. Yeah, that's good. You see here? All right. Let's get down. Let's get down to see Eliza here. All right. You good? We see okay?
Okay. Yep. They can
Okay.
see you. You're good.
So what we're doing right now with Eliza, this is called a kicker. We knew that we've been doing this for a while. So we came up with this idea to put two bands across each other so that she would have to kick down as well as kick up. Yeah, or flutter. Slowly. Okay, slow. And she needs to back up just a little more to get her toes involved. Now the reason for that is we want this ankle joint to get stretched and stronger. So she could put it right here at her ankle joint. A lot of people would do this. put it right at their ankle joint, then their feet wouldn't be any stronger. And if you had to have one talent in swimming, get down here. If you had to have, there we go. If you had to have one talent in swimming outside of character, you'd want to have ankle flexibility. What you just saw Caleb do, what you just saw Ryan do, you need to be able to do that as much as possible. The good news is that if you only pick up just 2 or 3 degrees, if I try to splash Eliza right now with water, and if we try to splash her with water, she's not going to get wet. But as soon as I raise my hand just a little, she's going to start getting wet. If you just pick up 2 or 3 degrees of ankle flexibility, you're going to swim faster. Now, back to measuring everything, you still need to measure things. How fast do you dolphin kick for 15 meters? How fast do you dolphin kick for underwater for a 25? Or do you make a 25, etc.? Now here, this thing is a little bit hard to measure in terms of force. We do change the amount of stress on these bands. We have different size bands, but we don't do that in force. But what we do, what happened to my metronome? Go ahead and start kicking. Is we'll put her on a metronome. Go ahead. Yeah. I want you to get a workout today. Go ahead. I'm not hearing it.
Yeah, you need one loud.
Anyway, okay, stop. Okay, listen. Okay, stop. Okay, everybody hear it? So this is a little tiny metronome. You can get a metronome app. Can they see me? Okay, you can get a metronome app. Looking at Rhonda. If you can get a metronome app that allows you to be able to change it just like this, and they're free. So just get them online, a metronome app. So now we've added, okay, how long can she keep going at this pace? This is 120 right now, right? 120 beats per minute. The other cool way to do this is to go on to your music, your app, whether it's Apple Music or whatever, and you can get beats per minute, and then it makes it a lot more fun for her. Now she can go on the beats per minute and maybe go for a whole song. Imagine a whole song going like this. Go ahead. Go. This one. Hear it? Yeah. Now go. Kick, 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 kick. Faster, faster. Go fast. Go. Just pretend. Okay, relax. Okay, so you got the actress out here, not going against her director. All right, so you get the idea. Measure anytime you can, okay? And this is a hard thing to measure, so we showed you one of the hardest things first. Let me quickly show you something, and we're going to show you Wednesday. We're going to do a lot more. We'll show you some other things we do. All right. There we go. All right. I'm going to go here. Go contralateral here.
Wait, so am I doing?
Just grab it and go contralateral, even though it's not the right thing.
Wait, so.
All right. So this is something we use. It's called a mini gym. It's got a readout. Let me see it.
Yeah. Okay.
Got it.
Put in a little more. So right here, the readout shows you can press all these different buttons to get a different readout.
Okay, and this readout is resistance divided by time, right? So it's power. So she's going to just show you. Just do just go this way, contralateral.
Oh, that's really not the right way.
No, the other way.
Oh, yeah.
Switch out. Use that handle right there. Sorry,
yeah,
switch out.
thank you.
We didn't plan it that way.
Sorry.
All right, I just wanted to show you something really, really fast there. Now, while she's getting that hooked up, let's take a look real quick. We're going to show you these other things. This is a rotating swim bench that also has a power readout right there. Hopefully this is showing a power readout. Let me see. I see me, but I don't see it. There it is. This is really awkward for me. We'll fix this by Wednesday. We have a leaper that actually improves vertical jump and that ability, but we don't think it's specific enough. So we're going to show you how we made it more specific. Just do a couple of contralateral. Go ahead.
No,
Go ahead.
down.
Okay.
Over here. Okay, down a little more.
Okay.
Okay, there.
Okay, go. I'm looking for the. Okay, go ahead. Okay, so to make her more specific at that, we put this on her armpit. That way, if she lifts up and starts using her big deltoid muscles, can you see her okay? See her around her?
Yep, looks good.
She starts using her big deltoids instead of her shoulder rotators. Go ahead. Then it'll fall out. Okay, relax. Okay, so she's stressing at that. We have a little one that's a little less stressful. All right, so that's a good start.
We're coming, we're coming.
We're coming. So let me share the screen again at the risk of messing everything up. And I want to show you what some of you have already seen. Now, some of you have already seen that we make, you got this for free from us. This is part of Cool Coach, and we don't make Cool Coach anymore. We're redoing it. Where is it? Nobody knows. Now you guys can see okay?
Yep.
Right? Okay, so this is a workout. Okay, now you don't have to even write this with a piece of paper. I'm just saying, here's what I wrote down. They did all these sets, right? And then I wrote in their homework. And I put it in the middle here just to kind of be crazy. So the ankle plantar stretches is what we just showed you, something they can do at home. They could sit on their ankles. They can use a fankle. They can, we have a group one where they sit together, although we're not doing anything together right now, but if they've got kids in the family, right? Where they can just have it, but they're gonna hold it for 30 minutes. So I just wanna put that point is, that's kind of crazy, right? But if you have, if you've ever done rehab and you had your arm in a cast, you go through 30 minutes of rehab to try to get that range of motion back. Well, all of our lives, we've been standing around at 90 degrees, sleeping at 90 degrees, right? Walking, even swimming in some cases if you've got some bad swimmers, because really that's what makes them bad. Think about it for a minute. If you've got a swimmer who has legs the size of Arnold Schwarzenegger, you've had 9-year-olds that could beat him kicking if they don't have flexible ankles, right? And it drives them crazy. So if you've been doing general exercises, squats, cleans, lunges, all those things, and wondering, why is my swimmer's kick not getting better? You've been running, you've been doing kicking in the air, whatever, but you haven't been stretching the ankles and measuring it. Well, here's your, this is wonderful for you because it's going to change everything. But it can't be done during the course of the workout anyway. So it's like this time was tailor-made for you to start developing land exercises that your kids can do, swimmers that are out there that you can do in between practices that you just don't have time for, right? We've been doing ankle rotators where you just sit there and have your ankle rotate around on this in a circle, but it doesn't really help you very much. And you know it. You kind of inside know that didn't do it. This will. Hip extensors, we just showed you, that can be done in a bunch of ways, and we're going to show you dozens of exercises to improve the hip extensors. But I can tell you that running isn't one of them. You do use your hip extensors when you run, but you also use your biceps femoris, and you also use your quads, and those things take over when you don't have enough power in your hip extensors. All right, it only works in the last half of your stride, and most people don't stride that way. They usually just kind of pound and punch. Here's the next day as an example, video yourself. Well, that was the homework. It wasn't really homework, but you can video yourself. Those of you with backyard pools, yes, you can. You can video yourself right now and send it to your coach. I bet your coach would love to see it because your coach misses you, right? So you can video yourself. And we've got, again, we make stuff, something laying around. We make stuff for that where, Liza, can you get me that? We made something for ourselves. So, and then eventually we sold it, yeah, real quick. It's called an iSwim. And it just goes on the side of the pool, has your camera on it, whatever camera you've got, and just put that down on the side of the pool and film yourself. And the idea, I don't know what I can't see what I can't see us now, but they can see this, so that's good. I probably have to take it out of this.
No, you don't, but okay.
So you get the idea of, let's see, who gets ice cream? First, oh, here we go. How about a written and practical exam? I wrote a book a long time ago called The One and Only Cool Workbook for Advanced Swimmers. I don't know if there's anybody out there that ever read it. It's been a long time. We're writing a new book now called Perfecting Practice. But basically, the difference of it was that it was actually a workbook, and you actually had to take tests every chapter and your coach got to find out what you knew, right? And what you didn't know. Because if someone doesn't know what negative split means, they're not going to negative split. They're probably not going to do it unless they know what it means, right? And if someone doesn't know what hip extensors are, they're not going to know to improve them. If they don't know how much ankle flexibility is normal or abnormally good, then they're not going to know that. By the way, coaches, we have a lot of things where you can put everybody in the same group and do the tracking of all of your swimmers and how much improvement they're doing. You do that in an Excel spreadsheet. That's all we did. We took an Excel spreadsheet and they did that, built into Cool Coach. but I think you're going to see extremely high correlations to the level of 0.95 correlation coefficient between ankle flexibility and their time in the 25 dolphin kick and the 15-meter dolphin kick. So anyway, that's how we do everything. Let's take you out of that share. Elijah, want to come back? Stop share.
Yep.
So here we are back. Boy, I bet there's some questions and I can't even, how do I get to see them?
It's at the bottom.
So on Wednesday, we're going to show a lot more exercises because now you have kind of a background of everything needs to be specific and how we get specific. And if you start with this paradigm, you're going to start seeing yourself able to make a lot more creative decisions. But creativity itself, the stuff I've been seeing on the internet on Dryland exercises, they're great if you're into general fitness. It's just, I'm not a fitness coach. I'm just not. I'm a swim coach. Now we live in a time right now, we're right now at a time to do anything to get fit. I totally agree. But I think when you get back to the pool, if you've been doing, we're going to show you these, how to do just this with the shoulder rotator and lock out, doing this straight arm pull down and bent arm pull up and all those other things to make you better at what you can get directly to me at steve@competitiveswimmer.com. And we obviously make some of this stuff, but a lot we don't. And by the way, coaches, I want to talk about that for a second. A lot of the stuff that you see in here, let me turn it around. A lot of the stuff that you see in here, we didn't design it. And we didn't even buy it. Or we did, but we got it on Craigslist. So I want to show you that stuff too. Here's another question. Steve, do you do external ankle flexibility like for breaststroke? Absolutely. And we'll show you that too. You want to?
That's not our stuff.
You want to show them that real fast? The breaststroke? Just jump in there. This is interesting. I could go all day with this. Okay, yeah, there's two things. One thing we use is, can they see you?
Yes.
Okay, good. No, don't worry about it. Just do it. Just get in. Just get in. You got a time problem. Do this. Okay, so first, I don't know if you can see this on the ground.
Yep, we can.
Okay, first
we can see it.
This is real common. I forgot what this is called, but it rotates on your ankle and you just stand and stretch.
The foot rocker.
The foot rocker. There it is. It says it, I guess.
It says it
Foot rocker. All right. So you can get those online. This is us. This is stand up. Stand up. Oh, I see. Get in. Just get in. You don't have to be perfect. Just get in. So this can be adjusted. So she's trying to be perfect with it, but she just needs to get in. So she's putting her foot in this myo band. She's putting her foot on the other side. Can we see? Yep. She's putting it on the other side of a fulcrum. So if you use a myo band, that's fine. And just rotate a little bit for us. That's enough. Just enough. Everybody see it?
Yep.
Okay. So she's getting internal rotation and she's working a lot on her hip right now. If she sits down, well, just go ahead and go with me. If she sits down, she'll actually work more of her hip. If she stands up, if she stands up, she uses more of her hip. If she sits down, she'll use more of her ankle. And so she can do that internally and externally. Did that answer the question? Caleb? Thank you.
Okay.
I have.
Oh, he said yes. Okay.
Okay, good. Thanks, Caleb. What else? Shouldn't there be more stability to increase flexibility regarding the previous drill foot rocker?
You can, I usually hold on to like a table or something while I'm doing it.
I was
So
just
you don't
giving
want
it
to
real
like
fast.
rock around. Yeah, you're
Real
right.
good point. Thank you. Really good. Yes, absolutely. You should be stable there. You don't want to be bouncing around when you're stretching.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
sorry.
would not be good.
I'm a biomechanist. I should know better, but I just did it nice and fast. And the other question is real fast.
There was a question earlier. Where did you get the elastic bands for the kicker?
Oh.
So yeah, we sell those. It's called, we call them, our biggest ones are called Swimlastics, and they're made for us at different lengths. We actually make one that goes across a 25-meter pool too. That one, could you grab that off the top of there real fast?
Hopefully.
So all it is cloth covered, and that's really nice because it used to, when we first designed this, we just used tubing, which you can still do. Just use some thick socks, but it's covered with cloth. So the other thing about it is when you're using it in the pool for assisted training and stuff, if it ever broke, it would break inside the cloth and it wouldn't hurt you, and that's a big deal for us. So Anyway, we really like it. It's made out of better material than all the others. Otherwise, we wouldn't do it. We try not to do anything. Now, I wanted to show this before I stop too. How many people are still in?
Yep.
Oh, we're over 100
We have 100. I think 100 is the limit.
Yeah, or something. Okay, so somebody's not getting in because it's 100. Although I think I raised it to 500 today. We just lost Ron.
You know, I think that Zoom might be putting anybody extra into a waiting room, and you might have to go and let them in. But you could send them all, make the video available for them.
Okay.
I'm not sure how to let them in yet, but it's in your waiting room.
We'll try to be experts by Wednesday. Okay, so here's another thing, guys. If you're talking about just doing it on your own, I didn't want to this was not a promotional thing for us. We wanted to show you how we think and how we've made a lot of coaches better over time when I've done a lot of these seminars. And really, we haven't just done Dryland. In fact, Dryland has been the weakest thing that I've ever worked on. So, but you can just get a roll. You can go online and find a roll of tubing. And what I do for all of my swimmers is I'll get a roll like this for 100, 200 feet of it. And then I usually charge them $10, but go and buy another roll. But I get 10 feet out and I cut it to 10 feet, okay? And then I tie a handle on the side like this. You just turn it like this, put it through here, and now you've got a handle. Then I tie one on the other side. And then you can loop this around stuff. So you can do external rotation, internal rotation, some stuff with the legs. Here's what's bad about tubing. You guys all know this kind of internally. That's why we like isokinetics. That's why when you see our rotating swim bench with isokinetics, you're going to understand why we had that built. Here's the negative. And so if you understand the negative, you understand maybe something of what to do with it. You have no resistance here. And you have too much resistance here, right? As you go through the range of motion. So there's no resistance to too much resistance. When you're in the water, you're going to want to have resistance right at the beginning, and you're going to want to have resistance into the middle, and you're going to want a resistance all the way through. Great swimmers have that. In order to improve that in land exercises, you've got to improve it with the amount of resistance. And when we talk about specific adaptations to impose demands, we got to think about that. Is the demand actually helping us get better in the water? In order for it to be specific, it has to be at the right speed. You have to have the right frequency. The rhythm should be as close as possible to specific, right? So if you've got a rhythm where you're doing catch up here, and then suddenly you're going to do a stroke like Caleb's, which is not catch up, or nearly as much catch up, you're not going to be as good at it. So if you've been swimming, that's why when people talk about garbage yardage, I don't disagree, but I don't agree. It's a whole different thing. My swimmers have done, this will drive people crazy, a 16-mile individual medley for time, long course at 5,000 feet. But we've also done 25s on the 230. Why? Because we want specific adaptations. If someone's going to try to win the 50 free, or if some miler can't get any faster. What do I mean by that? I mean, if you're a miler and your best time is 105 in the 100, you're not going to go a whole lot faster than 111s, or maybe 112s or 115s, right? Until that 105 comes down. So even with my milers, I want them to get faster. So we track their 25, their 15 meters, their 25, their underwater dolphin. We track everything. We want to know everything they can do. Why is Caleb Dressel so great? Because he tracks everything. He swims all 4 strokes. And I have a video I wanted to show you, and I'll show you next time, with him swimming the 100 breaststroke, killing everyone on the pull down. Now think about why. We only talked about one of the 2 things I really wanted to talk about here today was the early vertical forearm. Everybody always wants to talk about that, but very few people really know how to coach it. Because the bottom line is, same thing as we talked about with flutter kick, is if you're not strong enough to pull to keep your hand in front of your eye and do this, your rotators aren't strong enough, what do? You go to your lats. I've got a picture, I've got a video that somebody might have seen already online where we're comparing Michael Andrew, who's doing a video on how to do a pullout, and his first stroke is beautiful. He's probably the most talented swimmer in the world. I believe he's the most talented swimmer in the world today. I don't think he's the best trained swimmer in the world today. And this is why. His second stroke His first stroke looks like this. His second stroke on his pullout looks like this. I'm disappearing in the thing because it's so far down. He's using lats and chest, not rotators, by the second stroke of him demonstrating how to do a pullout. Now, I've seen him in races, and he doesn't do it as much in races, but he's demonstrating the wrong muscles to be used. If you have a straight arm, where are you going to go when you push here? If you push down, which way do you go? I ask this to swimmers all the time. If you push down, you go up, or you don't go anywhere at all. And finally, you go forward. So those people who see Caleb coming up with a straight arm up here have got to spend a lot more time looking at what he does under the water. And this is not an easy thing to do. But here's the bottom line is it's dry land. It's land that's going to make you better at this. If you'll do this in an isolated situation, Eliza, could you make sure you can see me? I'll show you an isolated situation. I told you I'd keep going. I wanted to show this more next time. So here's an isolated situation. See me okay? Let me back up a little bit.
Yep.
Give me a level now. Ready? I've isolated my arm here. So I can't pull with my lats. I have to rotate. I have to rotate. Now I could just do a bicep curl, but I can feel the difference. I'm feeling for the difference. Now, we are lucky to have an isokinetic. Actually, they're still making these. The guy that invented these with Doc Councilman is still alive and still running the mini gym company, but he's not going to make many of these anymore. So he told me that the other day. He's 93 or so. And so, anyway, Glenn Henson, his name is. So we got a bunch of these. So when I go after this, people are kind of surprised that I can still swim. And I think the reason is I get in here and do this once in a while. I don't do enough of it. You get the idea? So now, here's the cool thing is, if you have the idea, then you can figure out with tubing what to do right. But I've seen a lot of people with tubing who have their kids just pulling straight. There's a company that just made something with something made out of tubing. It's a good company. I like them a lot, but their demo video is showing people doing a straight arm pull. And you do a straight arm pull, you're not going to go fast from here to here. You're going to go fast from here to here, and then you're going to go fast from here to here. When you watch Ledecky, and I want to show you that very carefully on Wednesday, when you watch Ledecky in London, you'll see her, okay, just a second. When you'll watch Ledecky in London going like this, which is really good, and you'll see her in Rio going like this, which is a couple inches better. I tell my athletes when I do a one-on-one lesson with them, if we can just find 1 inch, just 1 inch on every stroke. By the end of a 25, we're talking to college swimmers now, at the end of a 25, that's a foot. At the end of the 100, that's 4 feet. We only want 1 inch. So swimmers, there's a lot of hope. And coaches, that's what we're after. As long as we're going after specific motions, we're going to get that inch. But if we don't, if we just think in terms of bodybuilders and how big we can get and how strong we can get, irrespective of whether or not it's going to make us faster in the water, it's just not going to work as well as you think. One last thing, and this will be a little controversial, but if you think about it, it's true. Every year we hear about world records being set in swimming. Every year we hear about national records being set in age group and at the national, international level. What is it? Because you don't hear about that in running, do you? You very rarely hear it in running. Under very special conditions, we just set the world record and went under 2 hours in the marathon, but you almost never hear about records. And once in a while, somebody spectacular will come along like Usain Bolt, but the rest of the world didn't come along with him. Now we have Katie Ledecky and we have a girl in Australia pushing her, right? How does this happen? I think that swimming is a very immature sport in terms of how much more we have to go. That's really good news. We have records to break that are going to be broken. Why is it? And this is a pet peeve of mine. Of those of you reading my magazine, this month it was supposed to come out where we talk more about how to break 4 minutes in the 500-yard freestyle for men. Why aren't we doing it? Because we don't think we can, one. And two, we're not doing the right things most of the time. We're not. We get somebody who goes 43 in the 100 free and we're telling them they're a sprinter. But somebody goes 39 in running. If somebody went 39 and you went 43, you'd think about going farther. Like try to go, you know, the 200 or the 500. We have people that are, you know, what we need is somebody to be able to go 43 or 44 and go 90% of their best time for 5/100. And lots of people do that. Lots of people hold pretty close to 90% of their best 100, but we don't teach it that way. What if you did? So I think one of the key elements of being able to do that is count how many strokes it takes you. That's another thing I'll ask people is, okay, you just swam the 200 free, you weren't too happy with your time. How many strokes did you take on the 7th lap? They have no idea. Did you film it? Did your parents film it? Did you film it? Did the coach film it? If I'm talking to a coach, I'm like, how many strokes did they take on the 7th lap of the 200 yards? Those of you international people, I'm sorry, you're up late and I apologize. But yeah, you're talking about 200 meters. So how did they do on a 3rd lap? How many strokes did they take? How many kicks did they take? But it's not just how many kicks, it's how fast, how far did they go on each of those kicks. See, the great thing about the weight room is you can isolate stuff like that if you're trying to. So that's the great thing about Dryland our way.
You have 2 questions.
Okay, here's a question.
So Kathy Parker Jones asked, can you email a link to me? Well,
Yes.
can you email a link to the recording and to the sources for your tubing and bands?
Yes.
Okay.
By the way, it'll probably be, why don't you just go ahead and take Rhonda's idea and go to my website, competitiveswimmer.com, and I'll put a link on there today, right away on the front page of it. All right, so this will be a link. You'll click to that link and you'll get to this recording. And the other question is?
And then isn't that all that too much pressure on the rotator?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely it is. So is swimming. Too much pressure on the rotator cuff. So what do you do about it? Now, now let's go to the science part. This is a biomechanist speaking. Really, when you're born, your shoulder joint is right in the right place. Well, in most cases, unless you were born with difficulty, the doctor had trouble getting you out. But most people are born with the shoulder right in the right place. When you watch most swimmers walk down the pool deck, they look like this, right? They've been pulling on the front part. These big, strong muscles have been pulling the shoulder rotator over. And so you get impingement. Theoretically, if it were balanced, you'd be able to use it as much as you want, and there wouldn't be a problem with it. Yes, you'd get fatigue, just like any muscle group, you get fatigue. The way to solve that is to make sure that you have the same amount, that you put as much emphasis into the contralateral muscles as you do into the primary movers. So people are often asking me, swimmers especially, how much of this should I do? And I often ask them, how many of this did you do, right? So absolutely great question. You need to balance. So what is the balance? What we believe is that you should be within, can you follow me? You should be within 80%. And this is another thing we like about something that can measure. You should be about 80% of the strength going this way as you are going this way, okay? So if you can balance that shoulder, you won't have shoulder problems. But if you don't go to the trouble of balancing it, I don't mean just stretching. Stretching won't do it. You know, just like saying, okay, well, I'll just stretch and try to put this ball back in place where it should be. That's not going to work. You've got to build up the other side of it. Okay, so if you got muscles on the other side of it, this is a muscle. On the other side of it, that's pulling it and keeping it in place, you're going to be fine. And you can do a lot of swimming. You know, as I said, we did 16-mile IM, never had a shoulder surgery. Never had, of course, everybody was fatigued, up a little more. But we never had a shoulder surgery because we were very careful to do as many of these. Let me show you a couple more. Got me?
Yeah.
How are we doing, Rhonda?
Okay.
Doing good.
Okay, so
There you go.
high diagonal abduction. And yeah, you do more of these, you're going to have to do more of these, and other exercises we'll show you. You can do a lot of those with bands, but again, you got to remember the negative about a band, which is not very much force here, maybe too much force here. So what you can do is get closer and maybe work a little bit more in here, and then maybe a little farther wherever you're strong going after that. It's a lot more random than this is. This just gave me, take a look here. On that contralateral motion, it just gave me 54, right? So that's 54 watts. So I actually know, let's put it up there.
You have 2 more questions, or there's another one. I didn't see the other
So
one.
I actually know how that balance is. So when people come to me with shoulder problems, we immediately put them on that and we measure it. Unfortunately, that kind of machine isn't as available. And by the way, there's probably somebody out here watching that knows better machines than doing this. We're working with a guy right now, Dr. Greg Galling, and he has a velocity meter that we're putting on the thing I showed you at the very beginning of this. We're going to use it for the water, but I'm thinking we need to use it for Dryland too, because there's not very many of these. And that way we could stick the velocity meter on any exercise we do. So that's the way I'm thinking, and I think I'm going to probably learn more from you guys as you send me your emails than I'm teaching you. That's true of every workshop I've ever given.
We have a few more questions.
What do we got? So you wouldn't recommend bands for most of Dryland workouts? Look, it comes down to finances. This, is probably $5 for every 10 feet. You can have your whole team on it, right? It's better than push-ups. I mean, if all you're doing is push-ups, you want to talk about having that problem with the shoulder impingement. If you're already having problems and then you do push-ups and build up more chest, more of the front of the shoulders, you're going to have that problem with the balance. There's nothing wrong with push-ups, but you got to make sure that you're going to add something. When they go home, they add more push-ups to, how many laps of fly did they do? Maybe it's time to go to the contralateral. And the only way you know that is to measure it yourself. If you feel like, I tell you, I know when I do this, I could probably do this right now. If I do this a whole bunch of times, maybe only 20 times, and I'm on fire in my teres minor and all those little muscles, infraspinatus back there, and I'm on fire, I know I need to do more. And I probably need to do less extra stuff at the front of my shoulder in the weight room. So the answer is yes and no.
Okay, so then we're gonna record Wednesdays, right? And
Yep.
put a link. Okay.
Yep.
And then
How much
time of your daily practices do you put into your program?
So here's what we're trying to tell everybody right now. This is the perfect time to tell you. Do those things on land that teach your swimmers what to do on land. Make them good coaches of themselves. And then send them to do it. You don't want to sit there with a 30-minute ankle stretch. You got better things to do with your full time. Now, if they don't do it, it'll show up when you test them on Tuesdays or whatever, right? So if you test them every Tuesday and they haven't worked on their ankle flexibility and they're saying, hey, I don't like kicking. They don't like kicking because they're not good at it, and they're not good at it because their ankle flexibility isn't enough and they haven't worked enough. Now, also though, I like to put everybody in a position where everybody can win. So what does that look like? You put an Excel spreadsheet. I'm almost afraid right now to go to showing this stuff. You put an Excel spreadsheet up with all the names on the left side and all their best ankle flexibility on the right side, right? You put ankle flexibility, kicking 25 yards, kicking 100 yards. Michael Phelps always did, every year he did a couple of times, we did 2,000 kicks per time with descending by 500. Bob, if you're there, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think I heard the last 500 of one of them was a 512 for kicking. Now, the point isn't that it's so fast, and it is very fast. The point is that Michael Phelps knew, and everybody that saw him in the 200 fly when his goggles filled up, right, in that race, in the famous race when his goggles filled up, and he set the world record and won the gold medal, he said, I couldn't see anything. All I had was my stroke count. Measure everything.
Okay, so we have this.
Lots of questions, guys. How would you say your swim ergometer compares with Evan Flavel's? Okay, let's take a look at Evan Flavel's. We happen to have one. Yeah. So this is Evan Flavel's. We're here. I'm going to aim at me.
Yeah. Oh, this?
Yeah.
Oh.
So actually, Evan Flavel, to answer your question, Evan Flavel actually invented this, but he also invented that. I'm sure that will count. Yeah, we got this from Cal, Berkeley. So
wait, give me a second.
So let me get back to that question. So somebody asked, for those of you who don't know who Evan Flavel was, he actually invented the mini gyms along with Doc Councilman, and then left that company, the mini gym company, and went on and made what I just showed you, that swim bench and everything. It's an outstanding thing, but unfortunately, Evans, left the planet, and he was me if that's all I did. just a really type A kind of a person, made these great machines, but if it ever broke, you bought a new one for $3,000. So he wasn't that great a businessman, but he was really, really smart and way ahead of his time. If you went to Cal, you would see all of those things locked up with you'd see a weight room like mine, but everything was hooked up by computer before we had PCs, before the personal computer. He had them all hooked up. And at the end of your workout, you'd get a readout of everything you were strong in and weak in. And of course, you know, it was North Thornton, who's a friend of ours, Eliza knows him, who actually was then doing a correlation coefficient between what they were doing on the dry land and in the water. The two machines I just showed you were actually used by 52 Olympians, but we traded Nort because his lower back hurt, and so we traded him for a hyperextension machine. I like the guy.
Okay,
All right.
so we still have.
He's still coaching breaststrokers at Cal.
We have a couple questions about the bands. I guess apparently it went
Based on what you are showing, a cable tape system in the weight room type system might be best for what is better than bands. No, here's the problem with cables. It's the same problem with a regular weight. Let me show you. Benefit of the weight. Oh wait, I'll get a look at it. So we do have some regular weights in our weight room, but here's the problem with a regular weight. Down here, I'll back up. Down here, there's no resistance. Up here, there's no resistance. Here, there's a little more resistance, and here, there's a ton of resistance. Now, the same is true of a cable machine. You can get momentum on a cable machine. It's better, especially, we have a Nautilus pullover. We'll show you that on one of these things. We'll show you how to modify it to make it better for swimming. That's what we keep thinking like swimmers no matter what. That's what I encourage you coaches to do. Keep thinking like a swimmer on every exercise you either prescribe or that you do yourself. If it doesn't feel like swimming, or it doesn't feel like it's balancing your joint at that joint segment, then it might not be helping you as much as you think. I'm not saying general exercises are bad at all. I'm not saying that at all. I think you should do squats. I think you should do clean and press if you're an elite swimmer. There's something to the speed of a well done clean and press. But just don't expect this to make you great at doing this. It's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. It might make you a little bit better back speed, might get better at a start. You're talking about starts and turns. It's a different animal than swimming. But what you just saw Caleb do, Caleb is not the first one in the water. He's got great reflexes and a great vertical jump. But it's what he does as soon as he hits the water that makes him absolutely exceptional and unbeatable. Or is he? Or maybe he's doing something that you can do to get as good as him. So yeah, I don't like cable machines for this reason. The other thing about cable machines is once you get them moving, they fly back. So let's say I got a cable here, I'm pulling on a cable, when I pull it here, it flies back. And the same thing with tubing is it snaps back. If I'm trying to really work all out in a weight room, I don't want something snapping back at me. That's why I really like isokinetics. I think people need to spend more time. I think more coaches need to be asking for isokinetics, and I think more companies would make them. And I'll tell you more about how I got one made for me. But and it got out there not even making them anymore because not enough coaches bought them. And you'll shake your head when you see it Wednesday or Friday or some other time. Okay, a couple more questions, guys. Because
we have a lot more questions.
Yeah, I know there's a billion questions. Please feel free to email me, Steve@competitiveswimmer, and I'll do my very best.
Okay. So
Sure.
I've coached most levels. Right now, I'm coaching the developmental group, and actually, I'm filling in for all the coaches right now, and so I have all levels, and and I think that there's a place to have developmental, like. Do you already have exercises broken down for each like group? Like here's our bronze and silver kids, here's our platinum and gold kids, and here's our senior kids. Do you have those exercises broken down in a developmental way to keep those shoulders healthy?
That's a great question. I think from the very time that they start to learn, I mean, my very first day, I'm the same as you. I'll teach normally in the summer, not this summer, obviously. But normally in the summer, we actually teach kids in my backyard pool. We'll show that in a while too, because my backyard pool is a little tricked out too. This is my garage, and
right, that's cool.
Can't take it out of our blood, right? But
that's right.
From the very first day that I get, let's say not a learn to swim swimmer, but a competitive swimmer, the very first day I'll ask them how many strokes does it take to get across the pool. And without saying anything else, I'll have them go maybe 3 or 4, maybe 8 more laps, and they'll get better. They'll just get better. They'll find ways to get better. Even though I don't say streamline or anything, they'll just get better. They'll find ways, you know? And I think that's kind of the marvel of this thing at every level. Now, again, I get college swimmers that come in with close to American records. And I'll say, you know, what's your best dolphin kick? And they won't know. So immediately they start improving. So, so that's a partial answer. Now, the better answer for Dryland is, yes, you want to keep them safe. And even surgical tubing, you know, I won't let people in Dryland that'll let this thing fly. It's a lot of fun. Believe me, I've made some water balloon launchers. You know, it's a lot of fun, but they got to have the kind of, like, I'll even do it by attendance. You know, that's when you want to do Dryland on Saturday morning, your attendance has to be 90 to 100%. You know, I'll have it 100% sometimes. And you got to be the kind of person I want you to do Dryland. So that's what I'd say with them. But I know you're looking more specific. So, you know, I love isokinetics because you can do it at any age. I think tubing, if they're careful about it. A lot of people are like, you know, teach them push-ups, all that stuff, pull-ups. I think that's nothing wrong with that, but I'd still try to be even more specific. What's going to make you better at swimming? Ankle flexibility when they're young. I can start with her. She's only 11, but even so, you can see she's not exactly Gumby on those ankles anymore, and she's been better. So, you know, I'd start really young with flexibility exercises, but I want to define that. Flexibility alone is not a good thing all by itself. They have to be strong. You didn't. They have to be strong through range of motion. So we need to be strong all the way through the range of motion, not just a little bit, or just get more flexible out here. If you want to get injured, you get way flexible out here, and then somebody grabs you. And because you're flexible, you'll actually have more of a chance to get injured. So you have to be careful about that too. I think if you teach them range of motion, strength through range of motion, you know, PNF, you know what PNF is? Proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. So we'll show for the rest of everybody, we'll just show it real quick. I don't necessarily, I won't necessarily say this is the best exercise. We'll say this is one. So we have her back here, and then she gets to this place, and then we have her press against me. Press. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and relax. I would not give young kids a partner to do that. I would make sure you do it, maybe teach their parents, and teach them what can happen when they do it wrong. But if they do get strong through that, you know, that range of motion, the farther range of motion, I think it's going to be good for them. And I would put a chart out and test them and give them reinforcing for the things that you really want. Okay? Right.
That sounds good.
I didn't go as far as you wanted me to, but yes, and I'll make my spreadsheets so that there are things I would recommend for younger and then the next level. Okay?
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you.
Sure.
So we have a couple from MJ. She said, what do you recommend to structure exercises at home for kids? They missed the coaching part. And then she says, do you recommend coaches doing coaching?
Do I recommend? Okay. And by the way, that said privately, so sorry. Don't say who said it. Oh, you did say MJ. Sorry. MJ, you know, it was somebody else. Do I recommend you swim with your kids? Oh, man. I never do a private lesson. I mean, it's almost never. Just the other day, I admit, I took somebody out to the ocean and I didn't get in, but that's a very rare thing. When I do private lessons, I charge $100 an hour for private lessons for a reason. It's not just to make money, which is nice, but coaches, feel free and tell them I said so. But I want to make sure I only get the ones that are serious. But when I get in there, I'll get underwater, film them, have them come up, take a look. If necessary, I'll grab them, put their elbow in the position I want, whatever I want, and then we'll go and do it again and again and again till we get it right. This kid's got a lot of private instruction, more in academics than in swimming. So is that a good answer to that question? I hope so. If you have a good physical education teacher in your area, hook up with them. I do mine according to age and development. By the way, that's a really good point. I was talking to the senior, it's called the senior development coach anyway, a while ago in Kansas. What was his name? I think his name was Mike. Wasn't Mike Hastings? Anyway, he said, I send my swimmers out to, it was Kansas City Blazers, Mike Malone, that's what it was. He said, I send my swimmers to a private health club where there's a guy there that I truly trust. He knows swimming. He gives them one-on-one exercises exactly right for what they need, not general, exactly what they need. And by the way, we only talked today about some general things, and I really didn't want to go there. I really wanted to take a swimmer and say, okay, this is what you need. You need ankle flexibility. Whereas Ryan Lochte, he used the ankle for a while. Even though he needed ankle flexibility, he didn't need that much, right? He needed to work on some other things. Like Ryan keeps his head up too much in breaststroke on his breaststroke. Ryan, if you're on there, you keep your head up too long. He has his head a little bit too far in breaststroke. So what does he need to work on? He needs to work on throwing his head forward before he bends his knees at all. If I were coaching Ryan, that's what I would say is throw your head forward before you bend your knees at all, so that when you start pulling, when you start kicking, you're in a straight line position. We're not saying go slower to get into that position. And this is back to the Dryland room. Now we know Ryan does a lot of really good stuff for his core. We know he can do this motion. If he takes himself and he throws himself forward into that recovery, then he can wait a little longer to bend his knees. Because if he ends up in a position like this with his knees bent, at the same time as his arms are bent, and I'll show this in a video, at the same time as his arms are bent, then he's got problems. So what would I do? I'd have him work a lot more on using that core to throw himself forward after the pull is done. And I'm a big counter advocate of anybody pulling out like this in breaststroke from here to here. Think about it. You take one hand away, what happens? You go sideways, right? So they're just countering each other. And so many swimmers do that. So, I mean, at the elite level. I'll go this far, and this is going to drive somebody crazy. I never show a female breaststroker to my female breaststrokers when I'm doing one-on-one with a good breaststroker, because I don't think anybody does it right. And part of the reason they can't do it right is what we're talking about today. They're not doing the right exercises in the weight room. In order to be able to take your hands like this and pull over the top without your elbow going back, you've got to be super strong in those rotators. On both sides of the rotators, for somebody asking about that. That's absolutely true. There are some females who can do that. I see it in fly. I see Ledecky doing it with one arm. But I don't see any female breaststrokers in the world doing it anywhere near the level of maybe the 10th best male breaststroker. So what would I do in the weight room immediately? If I were coaching age group as well, I would start to develop that ability to be able to scull backwards from the very first motion and not have any of this extra stuff in my breaststroke. People turn their hands upside down because they're resting. And I'm talking about the best of the best, except for Petey maybe. Petey doesn't turn them upside down very much, and he's got his hands forward faster than anybody else. Petey isn't great because of his legs. He's great because of his arms. And if I'm a female swimmer, I'm doing everything I can do in Dryland and in the pool to develop the fastest breaststroke pull. But coaches, how many of you out there, raise your hand if you'll do this, I only see a few of you, raise your hand if you know how fast your swimmers pull 100 breaststroke without cheating. That means no extra dolphin kick, no gliding, 100 breaststroke, full out. And if you don't know, that's a great thing when you come back to be able to learn. Now, what can we do in the meantime? We can do breaststroke with tubing or with isokinetics or with other things. And we'll show you some of those exercises when we come back on Wednesday. So we'll take one more question and then we've got to go. It's 2:22.
Okay.
Instead of froggy jumps.
She's just talking about how it looks like she's saying.
I wish I could hear all your questions at once.
She said my developmental group loves the animal stretches and exercise that they've done.
Most of the developmental kids are 9 and under. Okay, that's fine. That's not really a question though.
Okay.
Mahalo, great session. Thank you. Instead of froggy jumps, froggy sits. Awesome for hip flexion. Okay. Bear hugs, similar to the stretch he just did with his daughter. Yeah. Okay. Yep. A lot of ways, by the way. I'm not going to touch on all the ways. We will probably end up doing 400 exercises in here. I want to show you right from the fingers. We even have finger exercises where you work on the contralateral of the fingers. We work on the inside of the fingers. We have a bucket of rice out there we're going to show you how to use and how to scull in a bucket of rice.
my
We
God.
go all the way from the fingers to the toes and everything in between, and we're going to miss something. So we're going to have a lot more. We'll probably have 800 by the time we stop this. Thing before we leave, many of you have been on the forums where I've given you Excel spreadsheets on how to do Dryland, et cetera. So I want to make sure that you realize that I'll still send those to you. People have been sending them in public forums. I think we had a couple hundred, 250 or something in the last one I said, and this was on a Dryland thing. Now remember too, that the reason we do it in Excel is so that you can change them to be right for you. I hope nobody has heard me say this is exactly the way you need to do it. All I'm really trying to be vociferous and strong about is there are principles that can't be changed, right? There are hydrodynamic principles, action, reaction. You push down, you don't go forward. You just, bottom line, you don't go forward till the arm gets, to be pushing back. That's how it is, right? So I can't change that. And those of you who might disagree about having a straight arm, go ahead, because we'll love to beat you. But, but the bottom line is that there are many ways to be able to get what we want done. And I don't want to come here and say that there's only one way. There are some limitations to each of the things. The isokinetics we do aren't precisely isokinetic. They do measure power, but they're not as precise as they could be. But anyway, if you want those Excel spreadsheets, we have them for planning and et cetera. And keep getting excited about those because Bridger Bell, who's Dr. Keith Bell's son, and his brother are helping me to work on Cool Coach 5, which will incorporate all of this stuff, including video. So let me just give you an example. Let's say that you do measure your 100 breaststroke pull. All of you hopefully are going to do that now. You measure your 100 breaststroke pull, and you see there's a whole pool of people that are going, between we got a guy that goes 103. We've got a guy that pulls a 103 on my college team. So from 103 on up to 3 minutes, right? Whatever it takes, right? Especially when they don't cheat or whatever. They take one of the 3 minutes. And you figure out that and the computer will actually go, compared to their goal time for the 100 breaststroke being 105, their pulling is weak based upon, and get this is really interesting, because we're using Bridger, because we're using the company that he's using, he has your meet results, all of them. He doesn't have them himself, but I mean, he has them in a database. What we're asking them to do is give us team by team percentage improvement over time. So we're literally going to be able to say Rhonda's breaststrokers are improving at a faster rate than most people's, and then we're going to go backwards with her and say why. And she's going to show us a spreadsheet, or she's going to show us within the program that her breaststrokers on average started the season with a 130 100 breaststroke pull, and now they average 127. And that made all the difference, right? So there's no more baloney. So most people that are asked to speak like me, even when I was asked to speak at ASCA and Canadian elite coaches and et cetera, they get me because I had fast swimmers. That's not why I should be speaking. I should be speaking because I help you to be able to get faster swimmers. And I think that very principle that you see right there is going to do it. I tried for generations to get USA Swimming to give us their database to do this, and I couldn't do it. But I can do it now. And I'm really excited about Cool Coach 5. That's going to come in a while. We just started. They just signed me, and it's not a financial thing. It's just going to change the world of swimming. I wish we'd had it a long time ago, because I can tell you there's a lot of really amazing coaches. Amazing coaches that, and Doc Councilman said this too. He said the best coaches in America they're coaching some small team and they're doing a wonderful job, but you'll never hear about them because they send their best swimmers to me at Indiana University, and I am the hero, right? Certainly true with Mark Spitz and et cetera. And by the way, Doc always gave credit to Sherm Shavor and everybody else that coached Mark Spitz. I want to do the same thing. Is okay, yeah, and I know you guys are the same way. I want you to get everyone knowing how great a job you're doing. And if you're one of those people, you wouldn't be on this forum right now if you weren't one of those people that cares to do a better job than you've ever done and take this kind of immature sport as compared to running, right? And take it to the next level. You know, imagine going back to, I was born in the 50s, going back to the 70s with what you know now, right? Just about even just underwater dolphin kick, right? and being able to just dominate swimming. What if we could take that to the next level for the, you know, go 20 years into the future and be able to do that right now? And I think in the next few times together, we're going to figure out just how to do that. I want to thank everybody for being here. I'm Steve Friederang. This is Eliza Friederang. Give her a hand. She did a great job. Eliza's homeschooled, and she's supposed to be taking the ACT tomorrow at 11 years old. And we think she would have scored in the 30s. And it was supposed to be tomorrow, but it has been postponed. I know all of your lives are on hold. Please be safe and do everything that you're supposed to do. But I think what you can do for your swimmers right now is start to figure out what you can do to get them to do at home that's going to make them come back to swimming even stronger and faster than when they left. Wouldn't that be awesome? Thank you, guys.
Bye.
See you Wednesday.